Congratulations, you have gone online and found things I found online. I am your lovely and captivating host, Louise Blanker, here with a panel of wonderful, interesting people who have all kinds of wisdom and knowledge to contribute to the world. We are here with David Race, who hosts a podcast called Monstrosity Podcast. Lori Roggenkamp, award-winning famous comedian, and my nephew Jake, who is a Harvey Mudd college student, according to his business card. People love a good mystery, and when so much of our lives feels unexplainable and uncontrollable, could it be that we find some form of meaning in the pursuit of age-old questions? Who are we? Why are we here? Isn't that guy in the woods uncommonly large and hairy? Please welcome David Race. David hosts a podcast called Monstrosity. Monstrosity is a podcast hosted by Los Angeles comedian and paranormal enthusiast David Race.
If you actually click on the link that says Monstrosity, it'll actually say it for you on the screen, I think.
Better than I can.
Yeah, see, right there on the upper left of that.
Upper left.
Click that link.
Where it says about.
And now you're really going to get the script.
Yeah. Monstrosity is a podcast hosted by Los Angeles comedian and paranormal enthusiast David Race. Each episode features David Race and comedian or celebrity guests discussing Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, and other creatures with a paranormal expert. You don't want to miss an episode of Monstrosity because when David Race and his guests get together, the outcome is always scary funny. Round of applause for David Race, everybody.
Woo!
So tell us a little bit about your podcast, David.
It's a podcast that's really about my obsessive fear and knowledge of paranormal stuff.
And what introduced you to your passion?
In childhood, I started watching Leonard Nimoy's old show In Search Of in the late 70s, early 80s. And I used to be terrified of every topic. He made everything interesting to me. No matter what weird thing he was talking about, I was interested. And I just became more and more into the topic, started reading about that, watching a lot of shows on that. And then later on, in 2007-ish, I was upstate New York at a woodsy cabin thing that my father had upstate New York. And I think I had a Bigfoot incident up there. I'm 99% sure it was a Bigfoot incident. I didn't see anything. It's what I tell the story on my podcast, but the banging on the wall at the 11-foot height in the middle of the woods, 55 acres in by something strange.
That was OJ.
Yeah, it was Bigfoot or OJ, but OJ would be on a ladder and he would.
He has letters.
I mean, OJ's good at. He's actually not that good at not leaving traces.
Yeah, he's actually the worst at that.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, he would have been spotted by somebody. So yeah. Anyway, we had a thing happen up there, and at that time I was starting to get more into the topic. So then I really dove into the topic and really kind of confirmed my own suspicions about what happened up there. That caused this just getting into a longer story than I expected, but that caused me to start a different podcast that I used to do a few years ago called Comedians Talking About Bigfoot, which was really just me and comedians, me seriously discussing Bigfoot with comedians who didn't understand Bigfoot that well, but it would turn into funny conversation.
So as of this publication, do you believe in Bigfoot?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And then that podcast got me a TV pilot, actually.
Wow.
Quickly. So, we shot a really expensive TV pilot, and that TV pilot led to me having a different podcast.
Called Monstrosity.
There was a joke in there somewhere.
It's always nice when you take one step forward and then
3 steps back.
Yeah, 3 steps back.
Yeah.
That's like I planned this.
Yeah.
It was like one step forward, but then a Bigfoot step back.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
So now, do you think
3
it's like
Bigfoot steps.
Do you think it's like a one Bigfoot? Because that's always what I've gotten confused about. Is it one, or is it basically like people?
There are thousands of them. This is definitely a breeding population, almost worldwide. There's very few places where there haven't been Bigfoot incidents. Hawaii is one of the places.
Are they on Ancestry?
That makes sense.
I just turned in my DNA, and fingers crossed.
The real debate in the Bigfoot world. Actually, most of the Bigfoot people would say there's no debate because they would mostly fall on one side of this, and I'll tell you which side in a second. But to me, because I'm kind of 50-50 on this, the real debate in the Bigfoot thing is this an alien species or is this an actual,
okay.
So if it's alien,
creature?
then we blend two of our passions.
Right.
And if there's a Bigfoot who has passed away and is a ghost, then we could blend 3 of our passions.
Yes, you could hit the full triple Monty.
Trifecta.
What do people? What do they mostly land on?
The Bigfoot people would mostly argue that it's a terrestrial.
That's what because I thought it was like, I had watched this thing. I can't for the life of me think of it now, but it was very interesting. But one of the things they said was that they think that Bigfoot has been around before humans.
Yeah, every possibility is discussed and out there and examined. I would say that most Bigfoot experts would argue that it's terrestrial. Most would argue that its origins are more or less in the Asia continent, and that they came across on the Bering land bridge.
Okay.
When physically the world was a little different than it is now. And this would probably explain why there's no Bigfoot sightings in places like Hawaii.
Yeah.
So this would definitely favor the non-alien theory.
All right, we're going to start by Googling Bigfoot, and this is Wikipedia's description of Bigfoot. This is like a few paragraphs down, but this is the part that I found interesting. Folklorists trace the figure of Bigfoot to a combination of factors and sources, including folklore surrounding the European wild man figure, folk belief among Native Americans and loggers, and a cultural increase in environmental concerns. A majority of mainstream scientists have historically discounted the existence of Bigfoot, considering it to be a combination of folklore, misidentification, and hoax rather than a living animal. A minority, such as anthropologists Grover Krantz and Jeffrey Meldrum, have expressed belief in the creature's existence. So, and you were telling me, David, that the reason why, because you could read that and say, okay, well, if Bigfoot exists, then, why doesn't he come into town for his supplies or something? And you said, big feet are shy.
Is it big feet? Can we have an official ruling from on the plural form?
I like big feet. I like that calling it that. I think that's funnier. I used to, on my old show, I remember, for some reason, I don't remember what would cause me to say this, but a few times I would say things like, that incident is very Bigfooty.
So
I was doing that a lot at that time. But
our kids referred to as big feetsies.
Yeah, there you go. So
there were Bigfooty pajamas.
Generally, they're just referred. Generally, in the purest world, it would have been, well, the Bigfoot don't come into town because the Bigfoot think that,
Oh, it's like fish.
Yeah.
It's already plural.
Right. Okay. So, but no, they seem to be very reclusive.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use that word.
So there's been big feet have been in the news, David.
Mm-hmm.
In recent Bigfoot news, this is from a week ago in the Charlotte Observer.
What?
The Bigfoot is always making news. He's continuously newsworthy, this guy. A monstrous creature turned its head and looked straight at our car, a Kentucky woman said. A woman is reported to have seen a frightening creature on a road outside the eastern Kentucky town of Sandy Hook, prompting an investigation by the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. She described it as a walking tree, investigator Jack Smart said after interviewing the woman. His report stopped short of declaring it was Bigfoot, a legendary ape-like creature that remains more a popular myth than a scientific fact, according to livescience.com. So are you familiar with these sources, David? Bigfoot Field Research Organization and livescience.com.
Well, Bigfoot Field Research Organization is the Matt Moneymaker run organization. He created it, and he went on to become the star of Finding Bigfoot, the Animal Planet show that ran the last 10 seasons. And so he's the creator of that group, and they're the big Bigfoot investigation group. In fact, when my upstate New York incident happened, that's the group I called.
Really? And
reported my whole thing to. And they put me on the phone with an investigator, an upstate New York investigator, twice over a couple different phone calls that in total lasted probably 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Him really grilling me about this, trying to determine if I'm full of it. And then after determining I'm not, then really asking a lot of questions to figure out what category they'd categorize this sighting at. It's Class A, Class B, Class C. A would be I really saw this thing like next to me like you, and B would be something slightly less, whatever. I think they came up with mine being Class B, maybe. I'd have to ask.
So what are the key factors of an interview that would help them determine whether or not someone is just pulling a hoax?
I don't know what they would say the key factors are. I mean, I suppose the hoaxers become obvious as they're asking them 2.5 hours of questions.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's a lot of like, I saw Bigfoot.
Right. I mean,
and then you hear them exhale a big puff of pot.
The equivalent organization in the UFO world would be MUFON.
Right.
Oh, yeah, MUFON's great.
MUFON. Okay, what does that stand for?
Mutual UFO Network.
Okay. We're going to get to them later in the show. Now, you're familiar, David, with Congressman Denver Riegelman?
Yes. Bigfoot porn enthusiast.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is.
I was just gonna ask that.
Have you heard of him?
Yeah,
Lori?
I also read a lot of Bigfoot porn.
Have you?
Yeah.
Have you written any?
No.
He's ahead of you.
Yeah.
Riggleman, a distillery owner who formerly served as an Air Force intelligence officer, has authored 2 books about Bigfoot, including one titled The Mating Habits of Bigfoot and Why Women Want Him. What's more shocking than Riggleman's interest in Bigfoot erotica is that his interest in Bigfoot erotica was more interesting than his associations with avowed racists and white supremacists. On his first day in Congress, he wore Bigfoot socks to work. So we can't tell if he's joking or if he really is into Bigfoot erotica. What do you know about?
Can we really quickly go back to those socks?
Yes, please.
Is the Bigfoot wearing America socks on the Bigfoot socks?
Yeah, that looks like he's
Yeah.
doubling
Wow.
down.
That's very
He's
impressive.
working
It's
everything into one.
He's running
sock.
for president. I have a question.
Yeah.
If Bigfoot ran for president right now, who do you think would win, Trump or Bigfoot? Who do you think would get the votes?
Which one is going to build a wall?
Well,
I mean,
the
Bigfoot is as big as a wall.
the country's
That's right.
the country's
point.
obsessed with celebrity, and Bigfoot's the biggest celebrity there.
There we go. Okay.
That's a good point.
Bigfoot 2020.
So what do you know about Riggleman? Is he just joking around, or is he trying to shock us?
I don't
or-
know much about him except that I would assume he's not joking around. It would just be a really weird bunch of jokes for him to be doing.
It'd be very elaborate.
Yeah, I'd imagine he's serious. Believe it. I hate to say this, but even before Riggleman, before this made the news, I was familiar with Bigfoot porn.
All right, I want to hear all about it.
Because,
Do talk.
because I hang around in this landscape and I marry comedy with Bigfoot in my shows. I have to look at stuff like that, so I end up writing comedy bits and things. There was a comedy bit I was doing at one point written around some Bigfoot porn. In fact, there's one that's really easy to find online. It's like softcore Bigfoot porn that I've even seen like on Cinemax late at night.
Is Bigfoot
So help me God, it's called Sweet Prudence and the Adventures of Bigfoot.
is Bigfoot a gentle
Yeah,
lover?
I don't know.
He can be.
He maybe with other Bigfoots.
He can be. He can also be very forceful. It depends on how graphic the porn needs to be.
Oh, all right. So he
Yeah.
tailors it to his audience.
He can be like, like a softcore, like, let me hold you, and,
Right.
and then he can be
There you
like,
Wow.
So yeah, that's been on
Aw.
Cinemax late at night. Like I
Sweet Prudence and the Erotic Adventure of Bigfoot.
when
2011.
when DirecTV gives you like a Cinemax preview, you might have that.
That has 5.3 stars.
It's fantastic.
there is a.
You've watched it?
I have watched it.
There is a fetish of that men have, just one specific one, and it is men carrying sleeping women. That
Right.
is like, and so
That's full of that.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
that's a big deal with the Bigfoot, is that it's like because Bigfoot's so big, it's like he'll find an unconscious woman in a camper and he'll carry her away into the woods to keep her safe.
So King Kong was really just Bigfoot porn.
It was
Yeah,
it was
that is.
fetish porn essentially.
Yeah, it is. I mean, especially when you have someone like Jessica Lange, and they really did do with the short shorts, and didn't they do a lot of that with
Yeah.
her? And that, yeah, it was very like that.
Does anyone think that Beauty and the Beast is Bigfoot porn?
I
Probably.
actually just saw Beauty and the Beast somewhere, like on TV a couple days ago, and I was thinking that is
Because
sort of his Bigfoot.
thematically, it's like saying a monstrous creature will somehow be so magnetic that his powers over a woman will be to have her fall madly in love with him, despite or maybe because of his large scariness. Is that like a dominance thing, or is it like people who feel monstrous wanting to believe that the pretty girl will still like them?
It seems to me that it's an assumption by writers, even maybe they know something, that women have a secret, strong interest in bestiality.
Yeah.
Is bestiality a fair point? I don't know. Bigfoot certainly.
I think
But-
I see the connection. I see how we got
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
No, I can see how we got there.
I see the webs. I'm on board.
The connective tissue
Yeah.
is in place.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm on board. Let's do this.
All right,
Let's
so-
talk about this.
All right. So it really is just a sexual fantasy thing. Or does it have
That's what
to
it
do
seems
with
like to me.
control, dominance, power?
It's a combination. I think for the
those are not
guys, it's a
exclusive.
combination of like, I think for guys, it's a combination of like, oh yeah, this woman is delicate, and I'm taking care of her, and so she sees that, and she sees that I'm protecting her. And for women, I think it's like, this is Bigfoot. This is the biggest being, and he's mine and he wants to take care of me. And so that's, I don't know. I don't spend too much time thinking about it.
Is this the most amount of time you've ever spent thinking about it?
Yeah. It's not like I stayed up late one night and watched a bunch of
I would be into a guy who wore the socks, and I think I'm going to draw my line right there.
so if your husband wore socks, you'd be like, that's great.
Yeah.
But nothing else.
No, we can't go any further.
Let's never refer to this.
No, you do need to shave. Yeah. So, all of this, Denver Ruggleman is now, I can't pronounce his name. Riggleman is now he actually won in this county in Virginia, where there may or may not have been Bigfoot sightings. We could do the research. But his candidacy and his election win explained that Bigfoot erotica was trending on Twitter. And if we have that link, I think you'll find it interesting. There was an article written in
I just love that
thestranger.com. And it's thestranger.com, their tone is a little strong and direct. I'll have Jake read it.
I was told it was not going to be me earlier,
but
I can read
Lori
it now.
Can read it. Okay. Laura's an edgy comedian.
If a thing exists, someone somewhere is beating off about it.
So there it is. If a thing exists, there's porn to it. All right, that's their premise. That's their thesis.
You know what? I saw that line in the bottom of a pre-show email you guys sent me.
Right.
I just saw that line randomly, and I thought that was just you writing your opinion.
Oh, and did you beat off to it?
I read it. I'm thinking this is a really edgy thing to have just stuck in this pre-show. I was like, all right, I know
Louise has a very sharp opinion about things.
So if you scroll down, boys,
you're editorializing.
You'll see that the woman that was running against Denver, Leslie Coburn, I wish she didn't have the word cock in her name.
Yeah, it is.
I think maybe she could have won. She could have taken it.
She probably should have changed it to Nest
Penis burn. Yeah. So keep scrolling, because she actually retweeted something that he had tweeted. That's, I think, going to be the cover art for his book.
Did he draw that?
Maybe. So he's got washboard abs and a giant member that's almost as long as his legs, and then across that it says censored.
I love that he's shrugging as though he's aware of how absurd his
own
situation is.
Yeah. I'm hairy and hung. Those are two things I am.
It's like, hey, what do you got going on there?
But she still could not defeat him. He's a member of Congress.
There's another Bigfoot congressman. What's his name? Tim Burkett of Tennessee, just elected. Another Republican Bigfoot congressman.
Really?
So,
I only know that he's a Bigfoot guy because he's getting a lot of Twitter interaction and hey pal kind of buddy backslapping kind of stuff going on with people from Finding Bigfoot from the TV show.
Okay.
So cast members of that show, not Matt, but the other guys, Cliff and Bobo. These are other guys that the Bigfoot people know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. They're doing a lot of backslapping interaction with this guy on Twitter, so I know he's another Bigfoot guy.
All right, so maybe they formed a committee.
Yeah, well, the Bigfoot, Bigfoot is starting to infiltrate government.
Yeah. It looks like it.
That's what it comes down to.
Have you tried to book one of these guys on your podcast?
Well, I've had Matt on. I've had the head of the BFR on.
Wow.
I've had him on already.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And actually I had Bobo on, who's another one of the 4 people from Finding Bigfoot on my old podcast.
Oh, cool.
So how close to Finding Bigfoot do they get on their show?
Oh, they have a lot of good incidents on there. I mean, people always say, how close to get, thinking they want video as good as I can get of him across the room right now.
No, they want you to have Bigfoot over. He came over.
In my opinion, as a Bigfoot enthusiast, my opinion is that they've come up with lots of good evidence on that show. They've had a lot of, things responding to them with knocking back on a tree when they were knocking on a tree and matching what they're doing.
Wow.
They've had screams and yells back at them from out hundreds of acres into the woods. Who the hell is that? They've had thermal image of something hot in the woods that stood up on 2 legs and ducked behind a tree. And they were shooting a camera way out miles into the woods in the middle of Kentucky or wherever. So they've had what I would call lots of good evidence on that show.
All right, so Jake, you're a math and science guy.
That I am.
You're very, very data oriented.
Yes.
Where are you on Bigfoot?
I think that a show called Finding Bigfoot that ran for 10 seasons needs to find Bigfoot at some point, or it won't be on the air anymore.
See, but I'm arguing that they did. They found Bigfoot multiple times.
Evidence.
It's just not Bigfoot is not as easy to capture to the extent that you'd capture a bear or a lion. I mean, they're smarter than that. These things can blink out of here and move quick.
My point is just that it's the same thing that I have with Ghost Adventures or other shows like this, where I'm very excited that someone is. I'm a data person, as Weezy said, but I want people to go out and collect data, right? Like, obviously,
that's another show with good evidence. Ghost Adventures.
I inherently want things like this, which interest me, right? And I am skeptical of. I'm not saying, oh, that's nonsense. I want data that shows me that it's not. It's that a show that has to go out and keep an audience happy and continue to be on the air, I'm inherently skeptical of their ability to do so.
I'll tell you what. Go ahead.
Oh, I will say that I was the same as you, and I still am 50-50 as to whether or not I think. But I listened to this podcast called Last Podcast on the Left, and they talk a lot about like aliens and Bigfoots and stuff. And one of the things that they talked about when they talked about Bigfoot was they were like, we're coming at this as like a concrete, like when you're data collecting, you will show me like a physical representation, but that's just not how data collecting works.
But here would be like data that I think should be collected: a Bigfoot skeleton.
But that's I think that but see, then that's saying that, we should be able to find, I think that's presumptuous as to what Bigfoot actually is. Like, we don't know.
He doesn't have bones?
We don't know. I don't know. We don't know too much about, because we've never actually seen a Bigfoot.
I think, like, for me, what's hard to wrap my mind around is, like, if you watch, like, Planet Earth 2, they had, like, footage of what was it? It was it was the tiger and it was like the Himalayan snow tiger.
I'm going to cut you off for a second because I have a special guest on the phone for you.
Oh, that thought lead.
Okay.
Very exciting.
Is it Bigfoot?
Can you guys, Matt, do a little test for me? Speak.
Do a what?
Good. They can hear you. Yeah. This is Matt Moneymaker from Finding Bigfoot. From Animal Planet.
Matt.
Hi.
So.
Hello.
Hi.
So Matt, as I thought I might be, I'm being asked to basically prove that Bigfoot's real, and I was explaining that your show, they were saying that your show, in 10 years should have come up with the evidence, and I was saying it did. You guys had loads of thermal footage that I thought was very impressive. You guys had wood knocks back and forth and screams in the woods, miles out into the woods in the middle of nowhere. You're getting responses. Of course, that is evidence that it's not like you're going to get the thing to just walk right up to you like a bear or a lion or something dumb like that. How would you add to that?
Yeah, these are animals that don't leave a lot of physical evidence in their trail, and they're not stupid. They won't walk right up to you. But when people have had occasion to videotape them, as I've had a couple of times, they're usually running away.
What if I had brownies?
She's asking about baiting a Bigfoot, but go ahead. You were saying, what's the
Well, let's put it this way: there wouldn't be thousands of people out there who, really just everyday kind of credible people in certain parts of the country. That wouldn't happen if they really weren't there. If that was a phenomenon that happened, that everybody was kind of imagining the exact same kind of creature all over the place, there'd be a whole, the whole panoply of creatures that people are seeing. But this is rather unique, and I figured that out a long time ago. I knew that, they must be seeing something, that it isn't just like a bunch of people in costumes way out in the middle of nowhere.
So the descriptions match over and over and over again.
Say it again?
So she wants to know if the descriptions match over and over again.
Yeah, descriptions match, suggesting not just one, but small groups of them. So people will see two of them at the same time: a taller male, a smaller female, and sometimes young ones. And all the way down to ones that are like on the shoulders of the big one.
Let me just clarify for everyone in the room, by the way, that earlier I told you Matt was the head investigator on Finding Bigfoot on Animal Planet.
Yeah.
This is also the creator of the BFRO.
Wow.
This is the man who created the organization.
You're doing the Lord's work.
That we're discussing.
If there was a God.
So,
you'd be doing his work.
In the world of Bigfoot, we are talking to the next closest thing to actually bringing a Bigfoot in here.
Wow.
This may be controversial.
Right.
Oh, sorry. The point made, if there was a God, you'd be doing his work. I genuinely do believe there to be, and this may be controversial to say, more evidence for Bigfoot than any of the religion's gods out there. If I'm building some kind of pinnacle of like, we're, spectrum of what I believe in the most. I'm not trying to say at all that I don't believe that there's a Bigfoot at all. It's that he's not over some burden of proof for me. And at least he's doing a lot better than God is.
You're saying you believe if you were to join any religion, you would join Bigfoot's before you would join God.
I
wouldn't worship him.
By the way, Matt, there was no question in there. There was just something that if you respond to, you could get in trouble.
Yeah. I feel like
they're thinking of it in terms of just a fundamental misconception about the whole thing, and they. You can hold up the straw man of this singular Bigfoot idea that's basically an impossibility, and you can shoot that down, or you can deal with the real thing, which is that people see these animals, and from that has come this cultural figure of the one Bigfoot that people supposedly see here and there, which is kind of a cartoon construct in a sense. Mm-hmm. But people really do see these animals. I've had one standing like 50 feet in front of me growling at me, so I walked away. And even I needed that after meeting hundreds of witnesses, finding tracks, getting sound recordings, getting pretty darn close to them a couple of times in the dark until I finally, even then, the doubt wasn't completely lifted for me until I had one standing there going, until I turned and walked away from it. And then I was like, okay, well, I never have to think that maybe I'm wrong about this anymore.
Wow.
So that was a watershed thing for me.
Let's
I can completely understand how
get Matt up on the screen. Can you type in his name?
David almost had that kind of an encounter, which is, I think, why he believes it.
Yeah, he told us that it was the tapping in
the banging on the wall,
upstate New York.
I was telling the guys in the room here. This show that we're doing right now just has a lot of video elements too. So I'm telling them to pull up your picture on the screen. So as the audience is listening, they go, "Oh, I know that guy from Animal Planet." He's sort of he's very recognizable from years of doing these things. You might go, I've seen this guy on TV.
Yes, very handsome.
But you have quite a party going on there.
Yeah, there's a giant panel here of, I'm like at a Bigfoot congressional hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the budget next. So.
Yeah.
So
everything but the vodka and orange juice.
So I thought it'd be good to bring you in and just kind of move some of the answers through that I maybe would have a hard time answering. And I'm glad you were able to appear, and now I'll hang up with you, and then in a few minutes as they grill me some more, I'll call him MUFON guy or something.
Okay, very good.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
And I'll just say, if you don't believe in them, you're wrong.
Okay. I believe.
Bye-bye.
All right, UFOs, who's in?
Oh, I totally.
UFOs, yes?
Yeah.
UFOs, yes? Yeah, go ahead, Lori.
I was watching. Oh God, I'm terrible with facts. I was watching this documentary where one of the things I love was they said that I guess that when we have giant explosions, that there is an overwhelming showing that there are some unidentified objects that come to Earth. So when we had the nuclear explosion, when we had when we had the reactor explosion, that one that it's like we have all these unidentified objects that come to Earth. And so it's just it's almost like they're reading our heat signatures or something. Whoa. So it just has to be something big. So what I think we should do is blow up Florida. and then that way aliens will come and we'll kill two birds with one stone. We'll prove that there are aliens, and we'll no longer have to deal with Florida. So, I mean, that's my theory.
All right, the two Bigfoot guys will form that committee.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought that the thing in New York last week, that transformer thing that lit the whole. I thought that was very suspicious from an alien standpoint.
Yeah, they had. Did you hear about that, Jake?
I did not.
Okay, do you guys, if you can find that, they said it was an electricity plant got overheated or something, so it turned the sky blue. Right.
But if you look at the video, some of the video of that is unbelievable. First of all, the sky appears to be blue, possibly from above, not from below. It goes out suddenly. It goes out. There's one video I found online. I think we have it on our Monstrosity Twitter page. Mm-hmm. I think I saw it there. At one point, there's a video that I saw somewhere that I think we reposted on Monstrosity's Twitter page, where the whole thing goes out suddenly, in a snap. It's just gone.
So, what are some theories? If we're not going to believe what the government is telling us, what are some other theories? And then I'll ask the scientist right here.
The scientist.
It seems to me that the interference from above, from a vessel above shooting down at that is totally possible.
They're calling it a transformer explosion, but why would it be blue?
Yeah, exactly.
Blue is a cool color.
It was more like a Transformers explosion.
So your answer is just as dumb as mine. Then I'm saying aliens, and you're saying blue's a cool color.
Oh well, I'm asking the question: if there's aliens that visit us, why does they just show up and blow a thing up and leave? Like, what's the motive to destroy a very specific
See, that's
power
the thing
plant
is, like,
and
you're
then
you're
leave?
asking us to put thought onto a being that we don't understand.
But
You're asking us to rationalize.
There's a couple
that
things wrong with
behavior.
that. There's also you're not realizing there's so much more to alien visitation than just that incident.
I'm excited.
I mean,
What else have they been up to?
well, on my most recent episode of my podcast, on Monstrosity podcast, we had Lydia Cornell from Too Close for Comfort,
Yay!
and we had Brody Stevens, who's a great comedian.
Brody's awesome.
And
Brody.
we were talking about. Actually, now I'm trying to remember if it was that episode or the one before it. Actually, it wasn't that episode. It was the one before that. It was before that we had Seinfeld people on. We had Kenny Banya from Seinfeld.
Oh wow!
And Jan Karen, who also was
I
on
love
Seinfeld.
her.
So we did like a little Seinfeld cast member thing, like people who'd been on Seinfeld. And I had the president of MUFON on that episode. That's when we discussed it.
Yes,
Wow.
move on. And so, did you talk about Luis Elizondo?
We did not, but I'm going to tell you why I brought this up, though.
Okay.
Because I'm addressing what you just said. On that episode, we discussed that I had read that President Eisenhower had met with the aliens.
Really?
Yes. And we discussed it with the MUFON guy who confirmed it. He gave us the full details. It's on episode 4 of Monstrosity Podcast.
That's crazy.
The details of President Eisenhower meeting with the aliens. And you
So
get insightful commentary from Kenny Banya.
So they said, "Take me to your leader," and somebody did that.
Basically, yes. They
crazy.
pretended he had a dental appointment
See, the only thing that
when he was in Palm Springs.
only thing-
Wait a
Well,
minute. Wait a minute. Dental appointment means that somebody was giving him laughing gas, and he could have come out of that and said, "I totally saw
No,
it."
I too have a dental
This was
appointment tomorrow.
during
I really
like
do have a
a
dental
presidential visit in Palm Springs or something, and he pretended he had a dental visit. And they took him to Edwards, or one of those places, one of those sort of places. And he met with. This is all the details were laid out for us by the MUFON guy because I had read about
Wow.
this.
Jake, where are you on aliens?
Oh, I'm just sad that my side isn't fun. You get to have so much fun when these things are true. My side is I'm not convinced. My side isn't no, right? I'm not sitting here and saying y'all are inherently wrong. It's just that your arguments are more interesting and fun than mine, and mine is, oh, I feel like there'd be more evidence than a few things. And I feel like building a complete picture
let's
isn't
take a
fair.
leap of faith for your sake, for the sake
That's
of
a
it.
good
Let's take a leap
defense.
of faith right now. Just
Y'all get to have fun. Mine's
pretend
boring.
that everything I've ever said today and everything I'm talking about is all true. Just pretend we know that all now to be true. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
Eisenhower.
We're on the other
yep.
side of the coin now. Okay. Then you start realizing there's much more going on with the aliens than just blowing up this plant that day. It's not a random occurrence. There's a tremendous amount of involvement. The alien abductions are real. The Eisenhower meeting is real. The Roswell incident is real. Aliens are. There's loads of UFO incidents around nuclear missile locations all over the United States. and
That's
Russia.
what I was trying
Are
to say.
they
Yeah,
all
the-
from the same planet?
No,
We don't know.
doesn't seem like it.
They're different, like orbs. They come in different ways.
Well,
they,
there's a manual that you can find online called the Blue Planet Project.
yeah.
That is
Blues.
a supposedly a leaked government document, with the details of all the different alien species, and Bigfoots are in there
yeah.
as
And
as WADIGs.
also,
That's what the government knows them to be.
Also, Behold a Pale Horse is a good book to read. It's about like government keeping things hidden and certain.
But like one of the things,
Just those two.
one of the points that Jake often makes is that it's not that
Any more giggling
easy.
about this, I'm going to bring Moneymaker back in and shut you up. I mean,
It's not that easy to keep secrets
Yes, I was only
unless
giggling
you're
because
part of
I'm
the
joking.
Mueller investigation.
Blue Planet Project is also the name of a water project I found out. So I was trying to find the site, and then
Oh, okay.
it was about
But
water.
the one you
crisis.
just had on the screen, I think, was
Yeah.
the right one, and that has loads of alien species and pictures of them and drawings of them.
And yeah, it goes into
All right, let's move on. As the world's oldest and largest UFO investigation and research organization, we aim to be the inquisitive minds refuge, seeking answers to the most ancient question: are we alone in the universe? The answer, very simply, is no. So, Jake, do you at least agree with that as a concept?
That we're not alone in the universe?
Yes.
Well, I'd be incredibly excited. I believe presumably that we're not alone in the universe. In order to visit us, you either have to be from very close by or solve an existential problem in physics, which I'd be so thrilled to have people come and visit us and they have solved this problem. Like, you don't know how much I want the things to be true. It's that I don't feel like I just get to say, oh yeah, I've seen a few things, and then I want it to be true, right?
So
like,
what are the
it'd be so exciting.
What are the space-time problems that would need to be solved that you know about travel?
In order to visit us, aliens either have to live very close to us or have radically different conceptions of time or space, or solve problems about being able to travel very far distances. Right now, we cannot travel faster than the speed of light, which means that this is a sci-fi movie trope that if we're sending people on a colony ship, we deep freeze them and then we thaw them out and we put them on defrost for a while and then they colonize a planet because it takes so long to get anywhere interesting, right? There's so much empty rock and space out there. It takes so long to get anywhere interesting. Mm-hmm. If aliens can visit us basically on the regular and maintain some kind of galactic civilization where they have leaders who meet with our presidents who can do all these exciting things, they've solved the problem of being able to either communicate or travel very big distances, right? That's all I want in life, is if we can do that as a species, we get to, travel the stars and we become Star Trek and all that stuff is possible. And right now, I don't have enough proof to say that that's the case, that someone has done that. And again, you don't know how much I want that to be true. It would mean that we could have some kind of utopian future ahead of us.
Don't you think we're the outlier of advancement? Because we still have racism in 2019. We haven't solved the little things.
Yeah, I can't get my printer to work.
If there was a planet that was racially homogenous and had none of those issues, tribal thinking issues we had, if that was us, we'd be 3 light years, not light years. We'd be 3,000 years ahead in our technological advances, don't you think?
I think
I think that you guys are. I feel like you guys are arguing this based off of the linear time. For me, I always feel like it's we don't know where these aliens are from. That we could be calling them aliens, and they could be people. They could be us in the future. They could be time traveling back.
She just said something that I was going to say. That's a common recurring thing in alien abductions, that you get the possibility that they're us from the future.
But Jake, are you willing to suspend your belief that the space-time continuum that binds us here on planet Earth may not be a thing in
one of my 3 points was that they could have a different perception of time, and if they do, that's fundamentally more exciting than anything else.
Yeah,
right?
But then also we could be seen as a lesser species. For example, when we know that we still don't know a majority of what's in the ocean. We know that there are fish in the dark parts of the ocean, but we can't see it, right? Maybe we're the dark part of the ocean for aliens. Maybe there are only certain people who can come in.
When I was a kid, I used to daydream that, what if we don't even, as a universe, all of us, we don't even know that we're all just ants in an ant farm on the shelf of some much larger species.
I will say one of the first times I very rarely have gotten high. And one of the first times that I got high...
You're high right now, aren't you?
I am. One of the first times I got high, I watched Men in Black, and it was the scene where they open the locker, and you find out that we are just a locker in a giant subway station. I literally was like, life has no meaning. There's no way. It was it was literally one of the most traumatic moments of my life. I will remember that moment because it was just oh my God, that's totally true. We are just a locker in a vast array of other lockers. We are not so that was that freaked the crap out of me.
I agree with you that's an amazing scene. It's just fascinating to think that of all the movie making that's gone on, the deepest moment in film you've ever experienced was in Men in Black.
Yeah. And then when the alien came out and Will Smith and the alien started grinding on each other, I was like, you know what? I'm gay. That's solved my sexuality. I was like, I'm coming to terms with my life. That movie was transformative for me.
Who wants to explore the paranormal? Because David is steeped in this stuff, and for me, it's just I'm going to Google some things and see what because I want to know, where do people gather who are interested in this? It used to be if you were interested in these types of topics, you had to stay up till 4 a.m. and call Art Bell, who lived in a trailer in the desert.
Well, now it's George Norrie.
Right. And now you can go online and find other people who have the same interests, and so everybody's base level of informativeness is kind of exponentially wider and larger. They start with way more information. Did you have something, Jake?
No, I was coughing off of mic so I wouldn't interrupt the podcast.
Oh, nice. But me, just starting kind of like at zero, I just typed in paranormal. So I found TAPS, TAPS, and according to their website, they are paranormal investigators, not ghost hunters. And I'm asking you, David, what is the difference?
Well, paranormal is a very broad word. First of all, let me say Jason Hawes is the main face of this TAPS organization.
Okay.
And I've been on that show, that Westwood One show.
Wow.
I was a guest on that a month or two ago.
Wow.
So that's one of the George Norrie-ish shows. Yeah, that's a nationally syndicated show I've been on.
Okay.
But Jason Hawes is also the star of Ghost Hunters from A&E, I think it was.
So people who are really good at this, they get their own show.
Except me.
Well, you're on your way.
Yeah.
Well,
You know.
you're going to write another pilot that will turn into another podcast.
All kidding aside, I did on the other show, and that led me nowhere. And then now I've got this new podcast going, and this one, my partner and I already do have a TV construct for it. We're just looking for the right production company to partner up with, but we've got a really good TV concept for this new one.
That's awesome.
Anyway, Jason Hawes and paranormal. The word paranormal is kind of the overarching word in this whole lane of subjects we're talking about.
Okay.
So, like Bigfoot purists, for example, don't love when their monster is stuck in under that word.
Oh, they don't like being considered part of
that
paranormal.
word so much.
All right. How does Lockie feel about it?
Loch Ness Monster?
Yeah.
I would imagine that his people don't love that either. But paranormal, usually, most of the time, it's in the ghost world.
That's what I think.
But it is the best word, the overarching word. It's the closest word anyone's come up with so far to cover sort of the whole umbrella.
All right.
Ghost
So,
and supernatural.
do you hire a ghost hunter because you want your place is haunted and you want the ghosts to be hunted and killed? How do you kill a ghost? They're already dead. What happens when you need ghost hunting to be done? What goes on?
You bring in guys like Jason Hawes.
And what do
his
they do?
people. And
they're like, hey, you guys.
Well, they tend to do the kind of things that you see on these TV shows. You mentioned Ghost Adventures earlier, which is a great show. And I think those guys come up with real good evidence all the time, legitimate, on camera. I think they come up with real stuff all the
I
time.
like to point out that I do love the show.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to
But
bash
I don't think
anything.
they're faking anything.
Where are you on ghosts?
Where am I on Ghosts?
Yeah. Or even life after death.
Again, I want all the solutions to ghosts or any kind of spirits, reincarnation. All that stuff is far more exciting than what I've got going, which is we're gone, right? Like I again, when it comes to ghosts,
pink hair, you don't care.
when it comes to ghosts, like I want. Again, I love shows like Ghost Adventures where I can't trust the scientific rigor of a program that has to keep viewership and continue to move. And that's not trying to, I'm not trying to say anyone is intentionally misleading. That's not at all what I want to do. Again, I love Ghost Adventures as much as when you seek out with a hypothesis you're trying to test, you can, even in science, whatever that means, end up confirming what you want to believe.
Have you not seen Long Island Medium?
Oh
She's
my God.
talking to dead people.
Excuse me. I was just seeing you buying some apples. And I just got this intense feeling that your grandfather wants you to know that he accidentally knocked over your tiny little train when you were a kid and you got blamed for it. And that ultimately led to his death. But it's not your fault.
Spirit is apologizing.
Yeah, the spirit's apologizing through me. I don't know if you want to hear this. You're currently walking away from me right now. So I'm just going to shout louder so you can hear me.
Those guys on Ghost Adventures bring in equipment, the kind of stuff Jason Hawes would probably have also with his team. And they have like these white noise-ish kind of machines, and they have EVP recording devices and things. And they actually get on the show regularly, communication with ghosts, sometimes actually spoken word out of the white noise sound, sometimes EVP recordings that they play back and they hear something responding to them.
But I have to ask Jake this question. Is there any scientific reason why they could be heard using electronic equipment when they can't be heard on the Natch?
So again, when when you record audio, you can record, or whatever you're recording, you can get more than humans can hear and see, right? Like we're bad at viewing the world around us, and there's many different frameworks for like why we can understand that.
Yeah,
but
because
like,
bats have radar.
well, yeah, we're bad at stuff. Again, like a lot of the scientific approach to trying to find these things, I applaud and I think is very interesting. It's just that when it comes to trying to find evidence, whenever people sit down and say, okay, we're going to put a lot of heavy restrictions on what we're allowed to do and try to do the whole scientific approach, we don't find anything. And again, that's not to say it's not there. My point is never none of this stuff is real. Y'all are kooks, as much as y'all are willing to accept what I consider to be not enough evidence, and y'all have moved over to the point where you believe in some things. And
it's something
it's
I
much
like
more
to call
exciting.
faith, Jakey.
It's much more exciting.
I would agree. I would argue, and this is the thing. Like I feel like I'm more this than with God. I find it funny that we both agree, but I feel like I believe in this a lot more. But I still feel like, look, I've never seen an actual physical thing, ghost, alien, Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, anything like that. But I think when you do the scientific method, you're going like, okay, we are looking for a physical manifestation, or we're looking for these concrete things that are going to prove it. And what I think that is the problem is that you don't come up with concrete things. It's almost like a criminal case. Like, you're looking for circumstantial evidence. You're looking for like a fiber here, a thing there, and then together you're going to piece together this whole thing. And I think that's why I like these shows, because they have sounds, they have this, they have things that aren't necessarily explained in, like that might not prove like, oh, for a fact, that's definitely a ghost. But when you put them together, I mean, it's either a ghost or just somebody who's just a crazy person running around the house at the middle of the night, like going like, Michael, like for random reasons.
Yeah, and they build a very fascinating narrative. That's something that I think is, when you have a show like Ghost Hunters, or any show where you're trying to construct proof and show, okay, we did it. Obviously, you're never going to get to what you're talking about, which is this like, oh, we did it. We found a scrap of ghost, and we're going to study it in the lab, right?
Yeah.
But they build a narrative. Narratives are infinitely more like I'm far more receptive to them. They're more convincing when you build a narrative like, oh, there was a murder in this house 100 years ago, and it's the 100th anniversary, and she was a little girl, and you hear a little laughing, and it's like the narrative is a lot more convincing than the data. When you look at what they find in shows like this, you find, again, I also have my doubts about the legitimacy of a lot of data collected, and I don't think that's necessarily to say that they are falsifying things as much as trying to find things. And when you look at the data, it's a lot more convincing than this narrative where you're piecing these things together. And for me, I'm not willing to accept that in the same way where I couldn't put someone in jail because someone has a really nice story about how they did it. I need enough evidence. And the same thing, again, I want ghosts to be real. I watch shows where they try to prove that ghosts are real. I just end up not convinced because the narrative.
Were you on the OJ jury?
Yeah. No, he was on the Casey Anthony jury. I will say that sorry, you were going to say.
No, go ahead.
I will say that to your point, and this is only because I didn't believe for a while, and a friend of mine recognized, I think it was Ghost Hunters, but it was a show where there'd be a haunted house and they go inside, and I watched like 3 or 4 episodes, and 3 or 4 episodes straight, they'd be like, all right, so we found these ghosts, and like we think they're this, but then also they'd undercut it and be like, also you have mold, so you might want to get that checked out, or like also like your floorboards the wood isn't really sturdy. It's like of course that's it. Like why? So it'd be like almost like they were like, your appraiser just didn't do a good job. Like, so I was like, oh, that's so. But then it's like, after like a couple more episodes, when they don't undercut themselves, or when you kind of take out like the plausible stuff and you see that there are compounding things, I feel like you go, okay, I'm not saying that there are ghosts. I'm just saying that there proves that there's something going on. And I think to say that there are definitely no ghosts is like, I think just kind of shutting yourself off. Like you were saying, like you're shutting yourself off to, people who want to search for evidence. You are, I'm not saying necessarily you, but I think certain people are going backwards and they're like, nope, absolutely not. I'm not going to believe any evidence put forth.
Yeah, and my position again isn't there's no ghost, there's no Bigfoot, no whatever species similar enough to Bigfoot, whatever. Like my point is never no. My point is like His
point is he wants a better TV show.
Yeah, which you will get.
A TV show.
Yeah.
So Jake found something online called the SCP Foundation. And go ahead and explain that, Jake, if you want.
So this episode took a lot more, paranormal turns in terms of like discussing the evidence and stuff. So this may be less relevant now, but SCP is a fiction writing center where they've made this fake secret organization.
Is this paranormal fan fiction?
Fundamentally, yes.
Okay.
Yes. They build there's this foundation, the SCP Foundation, and their job is to protect normal humans and reality from these special kind of monsters and creatures. And this is a lot what they look like. They do a lot of redaction because I think it's very funny to have a page. Like there's some wikis that are just mostly redacted content. I don't know which necessarily SCP.
That's just a lazy writer.
Yes. This is an internet fan forum, so a lot of it is lazy writing. Or, hey, I want, my favorite like myth or story to be in this universe, so now I'm going to add my own person.
I want the redaction font.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of topical.
I'd be like, Louise couldn't read your outline. It was all redacted.
But yeah, the SCP Wiki people are basically, and again, when you're on my side of this coin, I view, I love the paranormal, but I love it from a myth and culture and kind of as an exercise of how
folklore.
People want to believe and communicate in things. And this is an example of people making that, but for the internet. There's a lot of like monsters. It seems like when you all live in urban cities and look at screens all day, people have seen, at least from my perspective, people are finding fewer monsters. And people out here are going and making their own new monsters. Obviously, they're not believing in these. They're not hunting them down. But I just find it interesting to talk about, monster hunting adapting to an era where everyone is just online all the time and living in urban cities and not finding fun things in the woods anymore. People are gathering online together to create these myths and legends.
Are they creating myths and legends, and are they all sticking to the narrative, sort of like role playing?
So they do weird, fun things. Some of them are very simple, like, oh, here's a kind of monster, and all the. Basically, any horror movie made in the last 5 years, you can say, oh, they stole that from the SCP Wiki. Of course, the SCP Wiki stole it from somewhere else. So there's the monsters you can't see, or they'll kill you, or other kind of things, whatever that new
how do
movie
you
is.
defeat it?
Does the word wiki mean bad-looking website?
Yes, it
Wiki,
does.
you've never seen like a high-tech wiki. No one puts a wiki together like, wow, what a designer this guy is.
Yeah. Brought to you by Squarespace.
All right, so for Facebook feed time, we have this is a post from Lori Harwell Henderson.
Oh my God, I thought it was me.
And
what?
and I thought this would be a good one for today if you would like to read it, Lori. I have it right here.
I received a gift this morning, a treasure actually. You'll recall that in September, a truck smashed through my office at the station and everything in it was destroyed. Years ago, I brought Callie to work with me and she colored this picture of SpongeBob, her favorite. I displayed it proudly from that day on. I figured it was destroyed when the truck smashed through because I never found it. Well, this morning, it was somehow found and put on my desk. Tomorrow's the anniversary of her passing. She is always looking out for me. I love her.
Okay. Coincidence, Jake?
This is awful because I'm put in the position where, coincidence.
Yeah,
you are.
Yeah, answer this question.
Yeah, you must understand, my point earlier about you're
you
building a narrative,
hate love.
you're building a story. I have to say, no, that little girl who died isn't recovering art. It
was a little boy.
Whatever.
Sexist. No, I don't know what it was.
Namist.
I'm forced to take a position against a very emotionally compelling story where I think, no, I can post that story with a picture of SpongeBob, right? I'm not scientifically convinced. That doesn't mean I'm telling this person, get out of here, you dummy, you made a bad post.
Anecdotally, has anything like that ever happened to anybody in the room or on the panel? Because I want to hear stories. I love stories like this.
Actually.
Because I do believe that Callie
not,
found that picture for her mom.
I have.
Okay.
I've only told the story once before. It was actually on a different national radio show not long ago. Dave Strader show, I told the story. When my grandmother was really into parakeets, my whole life she always had two parakeets at all times. If one died, she got another one immediately that day. I mean, never failed ever. And they were always flying around the house. They'd land on your head. They were on the loose parakeets. And no one in the world was closer to me than my grandmother. I don't have super close relationships with my family for the most part. It's kind of a strained East Coast family full of problems. But my grandmother and I, had the tightest relationship, and she was definitely the biggest champion of me. If my grandmother were a TV executive, I'd have had many shows. She died a couple years ago, and my brother texted me and emailed me that she died. And it was kind of unexpected. She was 93 or something, but she wasn't terminally ill or something. So she died suddenly per se. And then over the next day or two, my wife was noticing that everywhere I went outside, and I didn't notice it until she said it to me after about the third or fourth incident. Everywhere I went outside starting within a couple of hours of her death, there was a bird following me around. Wow. He flew right up to my car window and stared at me in the car window. Wow. Birds usually avoid you.
Yeah.
This bird was coming close to me all the time. He flew up to our back window at my house when I was standing looking out at the yard. He just stood flying right around me. And this went on for about 24 hours.
Jake, wow. do you accept that it's possible that there are some things that science cannot explain?
I accept that there are things that we don't understand yet. My own personal view is that science will explain everything if we get enough time, but I don't think that we as a species are going to make it long enough to figure everything out. Again, I never want to say that anything is impossible, right? Or that if something contrasts directly with science, that means it's not true, because science is always changing and adapting. It's that, these stories like this are heartfelt and meaningful and important, and to take the position of like, no, get out of here, right? Like, that's awful to do. And like, obviously there are things that science can't explain at the moment, and that's some of where we're putting the most research into figuring things out about things. It's that like, I don't know, I can't argue against something happened and it was very meaningful, right? I can't go back in time and say, oh, that was impossible, or oh, that's not something extra science, like outside of what we can handle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm getting something.
All right.
I'm getting a strong sense. Okay, what I want to know is, have you had a grandfather, grandmother in your pass away?
Am I doing this bit with you? Okay.
Yeah. Have you had a grandfather, grandmother pass away? You've had a...
Ever? Or like,
ever.
Yeah, sure.
What passed away? What, grandfather, grandmother?
My grandpa, my grandpa before I died.
Grandpa before you died. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I knew that. I felt that.
I know.
And his
I
name,
can tell.
And his name was Marvin. His name was Marvin. Oh, yeah. I didn't even... I wasn't even looking. I don't know why you're pointing to her. All right, I'm looking at you. You're being very disrespectful right now. You should respect the elders. Okay. All right. So what I want to say is that your grandfather Marvin. Okay, he's reaching out to me right now. All right, he's reaching out to me and he's saying, "Get a haircut." All right, he's saying, "Get a haircut," because you're not gonna get a job anywhere in this day and age with that kind of hair. All right, he's saying, he loves you, but he's saying honestly, nobody's gonna respect you. You can spout all the things you want, but when people see you, they're gonna say that guy belongs to MUFON. Okay. Oh, sorry. I came out of a trance, guys. I came out of a trance. I don't know. I blacked out. I don't know what happened. I've been gone for like the last 20 minutes, maybe.
That was powerful.
Powerful.
What's Twitter trending? Today, a lot of politics. I had to go. I don't know if there's a way to go beyond the top Twitter trends, but I pulled out my phone because on my phone, there's more things trending than on my computer. I'm not that good at Twitter. But anyway, so I found something that has nothing to do with politics and is awesome. So why is Lin-Manuel Miranda trending? Well, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Tommy Kail, Jeffrey Seller, and James L. Niederlander are purchasing New York City's Drama Bookshop.
Oh.
And so Lin-Manuel tweets, as a teen, I went to the Drama Bookshop on 47th, spent hours reading plays. It felt made for me, a place to go. In 2002, I met with Tommy Kail in the Drama Bookshop. It gave us a place to go. So these are the guys that created Hamilton. Proud to be a part of this next chapter.
Oh, okay.
So they're buying the bookstore. And then we have...
I like his description on his Twitter as former substitute teacher.
What does it say?
On his right, former substitute teacher.
Oh, that's adorable. And then Drama Bookshop tweeted about it. They showed a picture of the Drama Bookshop, and then Jackie Diamond tweets, love this cycle of life. The Drama Bookshop nourished them in their growth and development. Now they've stepped up to ensure it continues to be there for future artists. Several wonderful emojis.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
it's funny because in LA there's Samuel French Bookshop, which is like art industry.
Do we still have Larry Edmonds?
People here aren't deep enough that they'd be reading the plays like he was,
right.
They're like, it's like there's a crowd of people fighting over like hottest agents. It's like a top 100 agents of the last 6 months. There's like 5 people fighting over the last copy.
Of Casting Weekly.
Yeah. It's a kiosk.
It's a kiosk, yeah. Yeah. So, all right. I think that's a good note to end on. And I think this conversation continues across all of humanity and the universe. Why are we here? Is there something beyond what is explainable?
Is there enough time to bring up one topic, or is that...
It's a podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can talk on into the night.
One thing I wanted to know because I've really started thinking about this, where I think that conspiracy theories, and this might be too crazy, but I think conspiracy theories, like the fact that like we have like the Obama's a lizard person and all this stuff, that I think that is actually being spread by the government because they want to then blend in aliens and all this other stuff that actually could be true.
Oh, so smoke screen it.
Yeah, because then they're like, oh, well, these are the people who also believe that, like airplanes are spraying down gas.
So if you throw enough wild hypotheses out there, then people won't know. People will think it's all craziness.
And they can't, they'll be more dismissive of stuff that's actually happening before their eyes. Like the Queen's incident last week, which really could have been an alien incident. It's easier to just, everything's dismissible.
What did the Queen do?
Incident?
The blowing up sky.
Oh, Queens.
Oh, yeah.
There's a huge difference between Queens and Queen.
He said Queens. Yeah, I was
Queens apostrophe S.
For some reason I was like, yes, the Queen is an alien. I believe this.
Do you guys think the Queen has ever been to Queens?
I think so.
She should totally
the
go.
Queen of England?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, we'd have to look that up.
I mean, we know that the rock band Queen has probably been.
One of the things that I
had a very close encounter with the Queen of England.
What?
Stop.
No, I've only been to London once.
Okay.
And I got within 6 feet of the Queen of England.
How
I still
tiny
don't believe
is
she's
she?
real.
But she was in a car. But I was. This is a stupidly unrelated story. But I was watching the horse guards changing, whatever they call it. Not the regular Buckingham Palace, the other thing, the alternate one you go to when they don't do Buckingham Palace. And I was like the one with the backup tickets, and I was watching the horse guards changing, and all of a sudden there's like security and sirens and stuff, and there goes 3 or 4. They barely give her security. There's like 3 or 4 cops or whatever.
Wow.
And the Rolls Royce with her and whatever the husband's name is.
Yeah.
Prince Philip.
Yeah.
Was she doing this?
Yes, and she was as close to me as like the wall in this room. I was like 10 feet away.
Wow.
And I was like, that's the freaking Queen right here.
Yeah.
That's
It was weird.
impressive.
And she was going to one of the famous churches.
Oh, okay.
Jakey, do you believe that science has proven the existence of the Queen?
50-50.
Lane, what were you going to say? I want to thank everyone for being with us. Thank you, Devin Fay, Lane McFadden, Lori Roggenkamp, Jake Palanker, David Race, David Court, Dina Friedman, Joanne Palanker. I am Louise Palanker. We are your new favorite podcast, and we will see you next week. Be kind.